really thinking about saying things about language preferences and classifying languages, somehow the assumption is that languages exist side by side, and they, when you sample, you start to sample languages that are geographically different, but you forget that there are like all these languages that are like umbrellas, the big languages above them. Then there is like this major question about preferences, what is common in language, what is less common, and to be realistic about those, we need to be aware of the fact that languages are in constant contact. So what may look like a feature that is being preferred may be just a consequence of the fact that this feature is inherited and spread in a specific area, so it looks like it's more frequent than it actually is, or it may have been an innovation in a specific area, and again it looks like much more common than it is. So I thought I'd talk about how languages are constantly in contact, contact-related phenomena. I'm going to introduce two very important notions in contact and historical linguistics. One is the Swedish list, and the other is not here, but it's the notion of isogloss. There are many other notions that pertain to this topic that I decided I'd skip because it's the last lecture. But what I want you to take with you is like the Swedish list and the isogloss, and I'll explain both of them. And then I'll show two linguistic areas that are well studied, and talk about what makes them look like areas, and what are the problems when you define an area, what people have done with that, and I'll end like with global view with which areas we know in the world, even if a lot of them are contested for various reasons. So there is like this myth, as I said, that languages may exist side by side and speakers never talk to each other, which is completely untrue. The fact is, languages have been speakers of whatever who carry a certain language. They always are in some contact with other speakers of somebody of some other variety, whether they like it or not, whether they're busy killing each other or not, but there is still contact. Divided contacts, those by obvious force, which are the migrations since the beginning of time, since we know about humans and their their spread around the earth, and then wars and colonization. Those are war and colonization bring languages in contact. The effects are disastrous, but we still have contact and effects of language contact. So something that probably involved least force, let me see if this will work, because it's a nice, if it doesn't work, you can go look at it, but this is a nice animation of the wanderings and migrations of first humans. I've given the URL on the slide, so it starts with Homo erectus and it trips from Africa and into the Middle East and then on to South Asia. And then it goes into Malaysia. And then another Homo erectus goes into North Africa and what looks like it's the Iberian Peninsula. And then the trips of Homo sapiens, where our civilization came from, again, it's from the heart of Africa and down into Africa and then into what is, this whole chunk is in linguistics referred to as Eurasia. So the migration routes go from here and into mainland Asia and then by the Bering Strait into the Americas, and another route goes into South Asia and then Australia, and then we spread way too much. Okay. All of these migrations lead to language contact, and not necessarily a peaceful one. Now, more peaceful contacts, and then I thought of just this is also a nice spread of the Indo-Europeans. So the heartland is assumed to have been somewhere in the eastern Caucasus, and the white circles show the spread. So the heartland is about, they're supposed to have been there about 3,000 years ago and started migrating. So when they started migrating, there were other nations which are indicated on the map by red dots. If you Google Indo-Europeans, you'll find this map on the map. But all of these are known as the world migrations of Indo-Europeans. Indo-Europeans were very aggressive. So just like anyone who is you move from one place to another, you're aggressive, you come to another place, you like it, you want to stay. So fighting ensues. So all of these, so we have a migration route that starts about 3,000 years ago, before the count of our time, and then continues. So we're talking about the time span of 5,000 years. What this map shows is the first up to the beginning of our counting, so up to 2,000 years. And at each point in time, they encounter other nations, and there is like the conflict, the war, and then the language encounter, language mix. So much for ancient roots. By more peaceful means, religion could be a good spread. Religion has been a good trigger of wars as well. But in settled times, people who share a religion don't necessarily share a language. A language could be a unifying force. So Arabic in the Muslim world, Latin in the Middle Ages. Trade is a very powerful route for bringing languages into contact, much better than war. And through trade, we see the development of pidgins, and then of creoles, and evolution of language in modern times. Trade and foreign workers recruitment are very tightly connected. So Polish workers coming to pick up strawberries in Sweden, they usually don't know any Swedish, but they learn what is necessary, and there is like some Anglo-Saxon Swedish that is being like mixed up with some Polish, and it's all cool. Rusenoshk was one of the first pidgins that was developed through trade. Russian and Norwegian sailors, and none of them bothered to know the other's language, but there is a contact, and a contact language that evolved out of this. Turkish workers in Germany, now there have been several generations of them, so they speak German, but first recruitment goes through this. Any cultural exchange, import of digestion of books, films, any of this brings people from different languages into contact. And technology, which nowadays seems to be a very driving force, but it has always been. I mean, nowadays it's about computers and cell phones. Before it was about horse carriages. I mean, technology is still, it's still technology, it's just not our technology. People have been trying to define contact, and I list here two definitions that are 10 years apart, and both of them are equally broad, because contact is something that simply exists in our everyday. So this is from, the first one is from Sarah Thomason, who is a very prominent researcher on language contact and historical linguistics. So she defines contact, the use of more than one language in the same place and at the same time, which applies to pretty much like anything, you know. I mean, you use more than one language nowadays every day, and even before. Nowadays it's like Turkish and English, but 30 years ago it was probably Turkish and German or something else. So, Kapczewska Atam, she's a professor in my department in Stockholm, and she has become one of the younger leading researchers in contact linguistics. So her definition is again very broad. Situations where some people, so there has to be one person generally who uses one more than one language, and where communication between speakers of different languages is very important, and it's necessary in daily life. So this is a bit more specific than Thomason's definition, because it brings out the necessities. It's something not you can choose to listen to the news in English, or you can choose to read the menu in English or in Turkish. But if you have to use something else to communicate at the store, that is a completely different situation. Right? So this is where Kapczewska Atam is, I think, more specific about contact. But these contact situations are admittedly not as common as the Thomason situation, but nonetheless they occur everywhere in the world.